Welcome back to the Randall Platoon podcast. I'm James White along with Sojourn Shelton, Warren Herron, bringing you Badger football news and updates. Obviously, we had a bye week this past weekend, so before we get into any Badger football, I just want to check in, see if my guys were tuned into any college football this week. I know it was some high-profile games. You had Ole Miss, LSU. You had Duke, Notre Dame. You had a couple. You had USC, Colorado. I know Colorado. A lot of stars in attendance there. So I don't know, what were you guys' impressions this weekend of college football?
It was dope, man. I mean, we had some, like you said, we had some great matchups. Georgia was in a dogfight against Auburn. They snuck it out, but that LSU and Ole Miss game,
Ole Miss
came
game
down to the wire. That was a good game. And then obviously, USC and Colorado, man, you just got to be impressed by the guys on the field. That game felt like a celebrity game, man. I was watching I'm seeing all kind of rappers and high status people there. So it's good that schools are getting the attention. What Deion has been able to do in Colorado is amazing. I mean, I think if you're just an overall fan of college football, if you don't like what he's doing and what he's bringing to Colorado, man, I don't want to call you a hater, but it's looking like a hater a little bit. So, I think this week was dope. It was a good week of college football.
Yeah, that was going to kind of be my next question for y'all. Like with Deion, obviously what he's doing at Colorado, he's taking kind of a different approach, or bringing a whole different mentality to college football. Obviously, Colorado won one game last year. Now this year, obviously he shuffled the whole roster around, got new coaches in, bringing in some bigger time players. Obviously, they're still not where they want to be, but he has all this attention on Colorado. He has celebrities coming to the game, completely changed the whole atmosphere. They sold out student tickets. Every game is probably going to be swagger. Yeah, it's going to be sold out everywhere. So I know you kind of talked about it a little bit, Soj, but Warren, what do you think? Is he really changing college football? Because a lot of these coaches got short leashes already. Like, you get 2 years, 3 years to kind of figure it out, and they ready to give you the boot. Now you see what Deion's doing. I mean, we'll see how they finish out, but like I said, he's changing the program already in 1 year. You got the transfer portal, got NIL, all that stuff. So do you think it's going to create a shorter leash on coaches? More, athletic directors going to assume that, you got to do what Deion's doing to get things going? Even like a coach like Matt Rule, he's in a similar situation to Deion is. I mean, you would think Nebraska probably had, more quote-unquote talent on the roster than what Colorado did. So do you think that's going to be tougher on some of the other coaches? Because, like I said, they're watching what he's doing 100%.
You know what? I think it's a mimic game in college. You see coaches having success certain ways. Other coaches are going to try to change it up. And especially, from a recruiting standpoint, we talked about this, week 1 or week 2, how important recruiting is, right? Deion's bringing in all these transfers. He's getting the top guys in the country. And that's not a small school, but, it ain't as big or as, exciting as a lot of those other schools within the Pac-12. So now you got Deion bringing more excitement, more, eyes to watch the team, and bringing celebrities on campus. We talked about, guys having swagger. So I do think that he's gonna, if he continues to have success and they continue to get better, and we see where they go to finish this year, and then they build off it next year. You're gonna see a lot of teams starting to tailor toward being player friendly in terms of, from a recruiting standpoint, NILs and getting some of those top guys, especially the smaller schools. So I definitely think that he's going to change the way people handle their business, and it might actually loosen up the leash on coaches a little bit, because if Colorado's having success and they're winning big games and things like that, imagine the bigger schools that aren't winning right now, like the Nebraskas and things like that. They're gonna probably, obviously they've had a tradition, but they're gonna probably start opening up some things within the recruiting world, within allowing the coach to do certain things. So it may open up for a lot of coaches.
Yeah, I think it's good, man. I think it's gonna make, for the playing field for college football right now, I think it's pretty even and probably kind of all across the board, more than it's kind of ever been. Usually it's, Alabama, Ohio State, LSU. Georgia, they kind of rotate, Michigan, Michigan, who's in the top 4, and they battling for the national championship every year. I feel like it's going to be, a lot more even playing field now. I feel like a lot more recruits are going to, kind of spread out. Not every 5-star recruit going to the same school.
To Bama.
Yeah, which we kind of.
The conference changes too, though. Yeah, the conference changes is gonna help that too.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna kind of get to next with the Big Ten expanding, getting Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA. I feel like this conference is gonna get even better. I feel like there's gonna be more talent dispersed across the entire conference, and I feel like obviously those teams they score a lot of points. So like I said, every team in the Big Ten is gonna next year you have to build up to try and stop a team like USC and Oregon who can score 40 points a game, when some of the teams in the Big Ten right now we're struggling to score points. Kind of like ourselves, we can run the football. We haven't quite figured out the passing game, but it's gonna be a whole different ball game with these mega conferences coming soon. So kind of, you go ahead.
Nah, which is just so crazy to me. Like I think all of us have gotten used to. I mean, we've been watching college football and been a part of it, our whole life. So. I think just like you said, now the mega conferences and got teams from out west coming to the Big Ten. I think it kind of obviously it'll help bring more attention to obviously certain conferences, but I just think it's gonna be interesting to see how the style of ball plays kind of matches up, because I think when you take teams out west, obviously those guys know how to play and game plan for each other, right? But now coming over to the Big Ten, where you are going to face teams that are going to slow the game down a lot more, right? We're going to run the ball to milk the clock. So now just trying to figure out how those teams that are used to having the ball, I don't know, 15 20 possessions a game, now you chop that in half and you only have the ball 7 times, right? You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Are you going to be able to score as not as many points, but be as efficient in getting the ball into the end zone, right? Because that's how these teams are winning games. You look at the USC and Colorado game this past week. I mean, what was the score? 40?
48 to 40 or something.
Yeah, 48 to 40, 40 or something like that. It's no defense being played, honestly.
At all.
So when you run against those teams like Wisconsin or Michigan State or Michigan or Ohio State, Penn State, teams that are solid but their background and their foundation is built on that defense side of the ball. It's going to be dope just to see, how everybody have to adjust in both conferences.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. Right now, do y'all think there's any Big Ten team that's kind of setting themselves apart from one another? Obviously, you got Michigan undefeated, Ohio State undefeated, Penn State undefeated. The East is East is looking a little bit more strong than our West right now. Is there any team that's kind of stuck out a little bit to y'all?
Bro, Penn State,
yeah.
Penn State is clicking.
For sure.
I enjoy watching them because they can, they play overall team ball, right? Yeah. And that's the recipe when as far as when you get into those big games, being able to play good on defense, offense, and special teams. A lot of the games that you do lose, there's a slack. In one of the one of the 3 areas, but just watching them play and then seeing how they win, this past weekend, I mean, this was the first time that they actually faced a little bit of adversity, right? Going into halftime, I'm like, man, dang, what's going on, right? You're on the road, you at, I don't want to say, not as, but
don't offend Joey, right?
Don't offend Joey, but you're on the road, you at Northwestern, which they're not having the year that they would want to have, and obviously with everything going on at the school, Penn State had to fight, man. But once you can see once they got over that hump or whatever it was, and they made the adjustments on both offense and defense, man, they take off soaring. They can run the ball, they can throw the ball, and then they play, tough, sticky, hard-nosed defense. I think right now they're at the top of the conference.
What about you, Warren?
I agree, man. I love watching Penn State play. I mean, I love watching all-around football. They can do it on offense, defense, special teams. And, I mean, usually for them, I mean, if we remember, even in recent history, obviously they've had some bumps along the way, but a lot of the times it comes down to how they play against us, how they play against Ohio State, how they play against Michigan. So I think those are the big games that are definitely going to be good ones to watch. But, I mean, they're playing some solid ball. Coaching is top-notch, too. Yeah. I mean, putting them in good situations, got good packaging, and playing to their players' strengths. I mean, you can see everybody spreading the ball around well, running the ball well. So I just think it's a testament to their program. I ain't gonna pub them up too much, but because we playing with the Big Ten championship, got a lot more to prove. But right, they got more to prove. But I mean, just for where they've been so far, how they've looked this whole season, man, they've probably been the best team. I think they're the top of the Big Ten right now.
I'm a fan of Penn State too, though. I was high on them coming into the year, especially on the defensive side of things. I was wondering how Drew Aller was going to be the quarterback, but they can win in all different sorts of ways: running the football, throwing it, turning the ball over on defense, good special teams. So I've definitely been impressed with them so far. But we'll see, when they face the Marylands, the Michigan, Ohio States, we'll see how they fare out for the rest of the year. Now let's jump into the X's and O's. So our Badgers coming off a bye week. This is Rutgers week now. These guys, I think they're a solid football team, but in the bye week you get to kind of look at yourselves. We kind of talk about it a little bit. You do a little self-scout, figure out what you do well, what you need to improve on, how you can fix things. And for me, one of the biggest things that we talked about last week was the passing game. Do you think, obviously you're not practicing the entire week of the bye week. You only get a few days in there, maybe get one day of full pads, and then the rest is kind of light. I mean, who knows now? It's different now. They probably don't practice as hard as we used to back in the day, but probably be a full pass throughout the week. But do you think those few days will or can allow for that passing game to elevate, allow for them to build, a little bit more chemistry in the passing game?
Yeah, I think that bye week is just overall for you have to be able to lock in on whatever the needs is, whether that's getting healthy, certain guys getting healthy and getting in the training room, getting extra treatment, and then also just being able to key in and tailor on some of the things that has been giving you problems. Obviously we don't think that they've been practicing as much. Obviously trying to give guys rest, but this is the time where you can get in a film room and you can look at some of those concepts and you can kind of dig in and pinpoint, hey, on this route, if you need to break at 5 yards or 6 yards or however it is, like the small details, this is where you work on that. Because we're going to for sure need it this week, right? This is a big week as far as, facing a tough team that plays real good defense. Yeah. And, obviously knowing that they can stop the run and they can play, really well in both, the run and pass game. The pass game is going to be extremely important this weekend, right? Like we're going to have to be able to, pick up some key third downs or just some second and, mediums to, just be able to move the ball and give, TM the opportunity to put the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, and kind of speaking of that, you kind of talked about a little bit, the run defense. Do you think, our run defense is going to be able to step it up? Because obviously we know when we get into more Big Ten play, teams are going to run the football probably 30-plus times a game. We're going to face, a lot better rushing offenses than Purdue. We gave up a lot of rushing yards to Purdue. They kind of had a field day on that. Yeah. So, teams see you kind of slacking on your running game, early on in the season. You're going to get a whole heavy dose of that throughout the year. Do you think, Warren, this run defense could step it up in Big Ten play and be able to hold their own? Because obviously if you can't stop the run, everything's wide open. Everything's on the table.
Yeah, I do. I do think we'll have a good opportunity this week to show that we were better than we were against Purdue. I mean, we got a bye week, got a chance to watch film, game plan for Rutgers. We know that they can run the ball. Like, that's their bread and butter. Right now, they're having some issues throwing the ball. Again, quarterback's not making a lot of mistakes, but they don't do it as often. So I definitely think that the defense is going to be ready for it. Now, because I can picture us playing a lot of man and adding another guy into the box just because they don't throw the ball as much. And I think it's going to be a run fest, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a hard-nosed game. We're going to have to especially a home game. It's early in the morning, 11 a.m. You got to establish the run, dominate from the run from start to finish to be able to open up the pass. So I think we'll see a lot of run from both sides, and it's just going to be a hard-nosed game. I mean, Rutgers always brings defense, so I think it's a good challenge for our guys, especially coming off of Purdue, to show that we can definitely stop the run as well as cover the passes in man coverage.
And kind of going to the offensive side of things, obviously, air raid, but right now the strength of the offense is still the running game. We talked about the passing game still needs to evolve. Do you think teams are going to be, more willing to kind of how you talked about how we might possibly plan to play Rutgers? Do you think teams are going to start to play us like that a little bit more? Maybe put that seventh man in the box and see if those guys are going to be able to win on the outside, or see if Tanner is going to make those throws consistently, see if the receivers can win those one-on-one matchups or be in the right spots. Do you think teams may be a little bit more willing to do that, since we haven't – I mean, we've gotten behind the defense a few times. Mm-hmm. We've had some plays. We've made some. We've dropped some. So do you think teams going to start to play us like that a little bit more?
100%. I mean – bro, like you said, we've gotten behind guys, but guess what? We dropped the ball. You know what I'm saying? So it's always been a show me. You know what I'm saying? A show me type league, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're not making the passes or you're not making the catches, then we're gonna load the box and you gotta complete it. And I think especially having the injury towards Ches and knowing that we're gonna have to lean on BA or we don't have that next guy, like we're gonna see who that next option is. Of course, man, I'm loading the box, and if you're gonna beat me throwing the ball, that's that's just what it's gonna be. Especially for Rutgers, like you said, I know they're a top defense in the Big Ten as far as stopping the run. So I as a coach, coaching against the opposite team, I would just lean on my strengths, and it's gonna be a fun matchup, right? Because the run game is our bread and butter. You know what I'm saying? We regardless of like we've been saying in weeks before, we've switched to this air raid type offense, but we're still leaning on that running game, and our top dogs is at the running back position.
Right.
So, it's really gonna come down to DK, Sky, TM, those guys just being able to move the ball in the passing game. That's gonna be extremely important.
Yeah.
Play action.
So now let's jump into the scout report. So we got Rutgers this week. Last week they beat Wagner, obviously a lesser opponent, but they handled their business. They won 52-3. Offense ran for 268 rushing yards. They're third in the Big Ten in rushing right now. Like Warren kind of talked about, they're the worst passing team, in the Big Ten as far as efficiency, completion percentage, and all that. But I said they're playing to their strengths. They know they're a team that's going to run the football. That they're going to do that week in and week out. And they're going to want to play from ahead. They're going to try and limit your possessions. They're going to run on offense, play good defense. And that's essentially how they want to play football. So I think it's going to be another big week for us to get off to a fast start. It's not a team you want to go down, 14-0 against, because that's their wheelhouse right there. Then they're playing on schedule. Everything's available for them. QB run, all that. I think we really have to force Gavin Wimsatt into being a passer, which I think he's improved that, compared to last year and previous years. But we got to force that, see if he's going to make those throws, see if those receivers can beat our DBs in one-on-one situations or whatever it is, which I think our DBs should be able to hold their own very well this week. They're going to have a lot of opportunities to make some plays on the football too, like they did, a couple weeks ago. So I think this is going to be a tough matchup. It's going to be a physical matchup. I think this is going to be kind of like old school Big Ten football. Both teams that are, willing to run the football. Who's going to stop the run? Who can make those, few plays in the passing game? When you get those favorable matchups. So I'm excited to watch this game because, like I said, I've been high on Rutgers kind of all year long.
Yeah, for sure.
You had them boys on Twitter coming at you.
They've been playing everybody tough all year. They played Michigan really tough in the first half. I mean, their offense, like I said, they can't really throw the football that well. So Michigan put them in those situations in the third quarter, and then things kind of started to unravel a little bit. So that's kind of the game. We kind of have to play with that. But Michigan also dug themselves in the hole. Second play of the game, they gave up a slant for like a 70-yard touchdown. So that's not the way we want to start the football game. So what are you guys' thoughts kind of going into this one?
I mean, you talked about it, right? Like a very stout and sound, defensive team. Our offense just gonna have to play really, really good ball, right? Like I think both of us, identity wise, like we're kind of in the same boat a little bit. Obviously, we could pass a little bit better than them, but as far as like just being efficient and keeping the ball on the ground and just sticking to your bread and butter, we're kind of the same, right? I feel like it's gonna be whoever plays the best defense, and both of us have top-notch defense. Obviously, they're top team in the Big Ten as far as stopping the run. And I know they're really solid in the pass game as well. And it's kind of like the same with us, right? Like, I don't know our rankings as far as where we rank at in the Big Ten, stopping the pass and stopping the run. But, we've been successful so far this year. So, it's one of those games, man, if you're on the defense side of the ball, you just got to put your big boy pants on, right? Like, you're going to have to be locked in and keyed in the box. And then on the passing game, right, you're looking at a quarterback, like you said, he struggles in the passing game. But, like, even, this past week, just looking at some of the stats, I think he went like 12 for 19 or something like that. So he efficient, right? Like, he's going to complete passes if you give him those windows. So, for our corners, this is a game where, right, like you're going to get opportunities. You may not get as much from a standpoint of like how many attempts that they throw the ball, but 20, 19 attempts, as far as just the ball being in the air, you're going to have opportunities to make a play. And, for those guys like Ricardo and Alex on the outside, and our safeties, man, this is where, you earn your money at. So I'm looking forward to just our defense, being able to come out and stop these guys because, they're an efficient team. They were able to, move the ball. Here, like you said, that first half against Michigan, they were able to, move the ball and put Michigan in some spots where it's like, all right, you don't want to be in this hole. Now we got to figure out a way to get out on both ends of the ball. So, this is a team that we for sure, got to bring it 100%.
Yeah, right now, Wisconsin, we're last in passing yards allowed, 256 yards a game. Yeah. So there's definitely some holes in our defense. 8th in rushing yards allowed, 7th in points allowed, 17 points a game, which isn't bad whatsoever. So I think this game is right in our wheelhouse. I think they're going to be willing to give them some favorable looks, in the passing game to see if they're able to do it, and just gotta win those matchups. Like I said, I think they should be confident. I think, like I said, this is a phone booth. I think it's a phone booth football game. This one, Warren, this is what you as a D lineman, this is what you live for. You got to win in the trenches. Guys going to have to step up. Linebackers going to have to get downhill because they can run the football. And they're going to do it all game long, whether they win in the football game or whether they lose in the football game. They go still hand that ball off. It's probably going to be a lot of screens, bubble passes and all that stuff. So guys really have to stay alert. I know kind of you talked about a little bit, Soj, how there's only going to be like 20 attempts, a pass in the game. So don't fall asleep, at the corner position.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They're going to run a little play action or something, hard play action, one-on-one on the outside. Don't fall asleep, take a play off, because obviously that's going to be an opportunity for them to take it up top. So Warren, what you kind of think is kind of the key, for this game this week? Like I said, we know it's going to be a physical football game. Yep. What do you think is going to be the key offensively or defensively?
I think you said it right there is the physicality of the game. That is going to be the key. Like, who's going to be more dominant? I think that's something that, we pride ourselves in at Wisconsin. We obviously gave up a lot against Purdue in the run game, which is what we're going to see against Rutgers. But it's being tough up front. Who's going to get down? Who's going to get their hands dirty? I mean, you're going to have to figure out. We haven't played to our best potential yet on defense. I don't feel like, especially from a physicality standpoint. Like, when you got guys in the backfield getting TFLs, things like that, linebackers getting run-throughs, getting TFLs and whatnot, like, we haven't had that complete game yet on defense. So I think this is the opportunity for us to not only gain confidence being able to stop the run, but also showing everybody else that we have eaters up front. You get what I'm saying? So, for lack of a better term. But but yeah, that's the key, bro. We got but we gonna get I think that's the
I'm sorry,
somebody
bro.
Snorted, dog. That's funny, bro. But yeah, no, man, I think that's the key, bro, is being physical up front on offense and defense. The trenches is going to be where the game is won this week for sure.
And I just want to add, I want to add something, and I also want to ask you a question, James. But like you said, like, even with the Michigan game, they hit him with the slant, and you know what I'm saying, like, and they hit him for 60, right? So playing this week, like, that's something that we can't, I don't want to say like we just can't give up, right? Because also, like, getting behind in the scoreboard against a team like this, who's, like you said, their bread and butter is to run the game and slow the game down. And we talked about it earlier. Those possessions, right? Possessions are so key. You can have games where against Purdue, where both teams are trying to score. You might have 15, 20 possessions that game. I know that's probably a lot, but like, you might have one of those games where you have a lot of opportunities to put that ball in the end zone, versus when you playing a team like this, right? You might only touch the ball once or twice a quarter, right? Yeah. And that's where it becomes who is the most efficient. So it's going to be exciting to see how our secondary plays, because I mean, at some point, right, low in the box, they're gonna run the ball as much as they want to, right? Like, we know that's what their key is, but knowing that they're gonna have to throw the ball to move it, our secondary has to be locked in. The question I want to ask you, James, is, coming in, like, what does it feel like to be a part of a game where it's like on the offense, like being the running back and being a star back of this offense, knowing that you're playing a top defense like this, who's gonna be humming, they're gonna be shooting gaps, they're gonna be talking noise, they're gonna be making, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be one of them games where it's like, man, I gotta, I might take a couple hits, right? Like, what does it feel like to be? And then also just throughout the week, knowing like your game planning, like, man, it's really on me. Like, how does it feel going into a week like this against the
for
defense?
Me, you got to kind of stay patient, There's going to be some opportunities or some plays where you get stopped for a negative run, or there's nothing there for a quarter or two, but you still got to be able to make those same reads. Don't try and, make a play. Just trust your reads, trust the blocking schemes, and eventually, something's going to break. And when you do have your opportunity, we get a, one-on-one with a linebacker or one-on-one with a safety, you got to capitalize, because there may not be too many opportunities like that in the football game. So especially, as a running back, this is the reason you go to a school like Wisconsin to play in these football games. Like I said, obviously the air raid now is a little bit different than the past, and we're still leading the running game. But like I said, there's going to get 3-yard run, 4-yard run, 5-yard run, 0-yard run. Just got to stay the course, and then eventually, you may get into the third, fourth quarter. That's when you hit your 60-yard run. Somebody gets out of their gap. Somebody has a misread, and that's going to be your opportunity. So for me, I always try to, pride myself on, kind of getting better, as the game goes on. And I feel like Wisconsin has done a great job of recruiting guys kind of like that as well, where like, the more you feed a guy, the more he gets in tune with the game, it becomes harder and harder to tackle him. And eventually, they really wear the defense down. So I think this is kind of the moments you live for, as a Wisconsin running back. Like I said, it's not going to be easy. I mean, we'll see how the game goes. It's going to be physical. It's going to be tough. But I said, this is what you live for. This is why you play Big Ten football. I said, I know a lot more teams are throwing it now than probably ever before, but this has always been a staple, for this conference.
And our O-line has been struggling a little bit, right? So, so it's going to be interesting to see, how we scheme and, with the blocking scheme, just to give BA the chance, like you said, to not only be patient, but when that opportunity does come arise, he can break for 60, because that's a big key. That's a big part of, us moving the ball on offense, right? Like these past couple weeks, BA and Chaz has been able to, pick up 2-3 yards here and there, and then eventually at some point, being able to, hit a defense for, 40, 50, 60 yards and
for sure
put our offense in the red zone, or sometimes even, strike it and cause a touchdown.
Yeah, and they have some pass rushers on their team too. They have a kid, Aaron Lewis, who last year he had the most, pressure, had the highest pressure percentage rate, in the Big Ten last year. And they had a guy, he missed, almost in the entire year last year, but he led their team in sacks the previous year, Muhammad Toure, who's back this year. So they have some guys who can, get off on the edge, which are, our tackles have struggled a little bit protecting, 10 or something. So they're not just, good in the running game. They have some guys that can get after the passes and get after the passer as well. And they have some DBs as well. Like they have a kid, Milton, a corner who's solid out there, and they got a safety, Flip Dixon, who he gonna come up and hit you, look like an NFL safety. So,
bro, Greg always, that's one thing I can, we alluded to. I know Greg Schiano from being in the NFL and being a D coordinator for, a head coach, but being a D coordinator in the NFL, and I just remember the last time he was in the league, with Tampa. I mean, the defense always been humming, right? So, the one thing they gonna be physical. They gonna put a hat on people, and they gonna play good defensive ball. So. It's gonna be a good matchup to watch for sure.
For sure. Now let's get to the word on campus. So I've never played at Rutgers before. I don't know if either one of you guys got an opportunity to play at Rutgers. Did you guys get a chance? So what? Kind of wanted to ask y'all, what is the I know when you guys played them, they weren't as good as kind of what they are right now. So what is that atmosphere like going on the road? Playing at Rutgers. I know they're not playing there, but what was your experience like going to Rutgers and playing that football team?
Man, it's not really a big stadium, but when we played there, bro, the weather was terrible. It was real rainy. Like it kind of was like in a sense of a game that we're gonna be playing this weekend. It was one of them games where you knew the ball was gonna be on the ground. Man, I cannot remember when we did play them. They had a really, really good receiver. His name was Licardo. He ended up playing for the Dolphins. He got drafted to the Dolphins.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. They had a really good receiver at Rutgers, and
Leonte Carew.
Leonte Carew. Yep, that's his name for sure. And they gave him some opportunities in it, and he was definitely good. It was a fun game, minus the weather. Obviously, I've never been really.
He only had 33 receiving on 2 catches, bro. Y'all lost him up. No. That was straps.
Me and D Hill, straps for sure. But it's just like being a part of a game where you're facing a top receiver. Like you said, he ended up getting drafted. I want to say in the 2nd or 3rd round. Honestly,
he got drafted pretty high.
Yeah, he got drafted high to the Dolphins. So that was one of those games where we knew, like, all right, man, we had to be on our P's and Q's, and then especially him being a star player of that team, you knew they were going to give him the opportunity. So for us to, as a unit, to only hold him to 2 catches for 33 yards or something like that, like that just speaks on how as a unit we played together and we was able to achieve that goal. But yeah, it's not a fun place to play, especially if the weather's bad from our experience. But yeah, we was able to get the dub. We made some good plays on defense. I know we had a block punt that game. Like, that's the type of football. Goose egg. That's the type of ball that we're gonna have to play, not only against Rutgers but moving forward into the year.
What was your experience like, Warren, going up against the Scarlet Knights?
I ain't gonna lie, I was a big dude. I was about 298, bro, and that long walk had me tired before the first quarter get to the field.
You've been talking about that walk.
Yeah, that walk. That walk is crucial. But nah, it was, like Sojourn saying, I mean, it's not, gotta be at place to play, but they had a good defense. Offense did their thing. We did our thing on defense. It was 37-0. So it was just one of those games where we walked in, we handled business, and we walked out. I mean, it was great to see guys taking off. We had a really good run game. I mean, that's what we do. We rushed for almost like 300 yards total. But yeah, it's just like no offense to Joe, it's like going to Northwestern. But
no, worse than Northwestern.
Shots at Julie, all pop, man.
Hey, right? But I expect, like you said, I expect this weekend to be the same. I mean, it's one of those like hard nosed, nothing super exciting. It's gonna be a lot of running the ball, and it's gonna be a quick game.
Yeah. Got
what was the least favorable place for you, James? Like, obviously, I don't think you was able to. I think you were gone by the time that Rutgers came into the Big Ten. But one of those places where you like, man, it ain't fun to play here. You kind of gotta just hype yourself up a little bit.
Toughest play or worst place to play? It probably had to be Purdue. Now they was. Okay. When I was playing, they weren't very good. And Warren kind of talked about it the Purdue week. I mean, there probably was like 5,000 people there. It'd always be like raining or something over there. I mean, we have a good football game. They would have some pretty good football players, but they just were never really good football. It's just hard to kind of get yourself going for sometimes for those football. Y'all played at Northwestern. I never played there, and everything I hear from guys from our team and playing at Northwestern is saying it's kind of hard to get going. It's the third quarter and they're up now. They up 21-10 or something like that. You kind of scratching and clawing, trying to fire your way back in the football game. We never quite did that at Purdue, but that was never a fun place to play for me. It's tough. Like I said, when you go to the Big Ten, you always had those expectations of playing in front of whatever the 70,000, 100,000 fans. You don't really have to get yourself motivated to go out there and play. That was one of those places where it was hard for me. Hey, what about y'all? I don't know.
I got a question though. So it's gonna be tough. You gotta motivate yourself. Right now, it's not gonna be tough. It's gonna be like one of those slow to go games. You gotta get yourself motivated. So, what your pregame speech gonna sound like before the game to your team? What you gonna say, Soj?
Pregame speech?
Yeah, what you gonna say in the middle of the circle?
You know me, bro. I've never really been. I'm more been like the, go out there and lead by example. Like I wasn't really the rah-rah type guy. There's nothing wrong with being that. That's just not me. But man, I love, like, I was one of the people, I didn't have to get up, to find motivation to, go, whether it was Ohio State or we were playing, Purdue or whichever the bottom of the team was of the conference that year. I just felt like every opportunity, every chance I got to get out there and play, with my guys and on TV, like my family at home can watch. Like that's what my motivation was. So pregame speech never really was that kind of guy, but it was always fun just to get out there and play. Like I've been in a couple games, right, where I just it might have been a third down and a TV timeout, and I just remember just being on the field and just looking at me and like, man, like this is truly like my childhood dream, right? Like I get a chance to play in front of 100,000 fans. Like that was so cool, to be a part of. And the game actually was Ohio State my freshman year, right? Like that was so big to go into that stadium, and it was a night game, 100,000 fans plus. Like LeBron was at that game, so I got a chance to see LeBron. It's just like, wow, this is what it's all about. Kirk Herbstreit on the field.
Yeah.
So that it just as far as like pregame speeches and stuff, like that's just not my thing. But just being out there and just having the opportunity to spend with the guys and play full speed and have fun. That's what really was my motivation every week and every Saturday.
For sure.
Yeah, for me, it just be bring your own juice. You just got to bring your own juice to the game. I mean, like I said, it ain't going to be fans cheering. I mean, you're going to have your teammates there supporting you. It ain't going to be loud and rocking. You ain't got to use your cadence and all that other stuff. You just got to find yourself, motivate. Get off to a fast start, because obviously when you dig yourself in a hole in those type of games, it gets hard to kind of get going. You're down 14-0. Then you're trying to figure things out, and guys are trying to force things. So I think just bring your own juice, get off to a good start, and put the team away early. I think that's the best way to play those types of football games. But we did have a question from. Oh, you go ahead.
Oh, I'm about to say, and James, you play a position where you better come out there with somebody gonna wake you up.
Right. Tough sledding after that. Get them some confidence. Let them hit you a few times, and it's on and popping for the rest of the game. So you definitely don't want that at the running back position, or you get popped, you fumble the football, and your confidence kind of shot, for the rest of the game. So it's definitely got to bring your own juice. We did have a question from our guy Zach Nyborg. He said, "Do I still blast Love Sosa like I used to to try and make them do every practice? At least it wasn't wrecking ball that Bo Allen would request every day at practice." I haven't played Love Sosa in a long time. In college, that was my stuff.
That was your phone.
That was one of them songs that definitely got me going for sure.
Keith was on the run too back then. He got some bangers.
I swear you talk crazy about you.
Man, how you turned up, bro.
Hey.
And kind of talk about what he talking about. I'm glad Wisconsin football is kind of elevated. Kind of getting the guys going before the game type of thing. I know when we was there, they were literally playing wrecking ball,
Party in the USA.
Party in the USA. I am a Tiger.
Miley did her thing on that.
Yeah.
I give her credit. That's that phone.
Listen,
come on, man. Ain't nobody trying to hear that.
I'm cool with all that. I'm open to all different types of music, but when I'm listening to it every week, listening to Party USA and Eye of the Tiger every home game, it's a little much for me. I mean, look, I get it during practice. Coach B they expanded my music catalog based on listening to it in practice. Like I rock with country. I can listen to Luke Combs, Darius Rucker, all that stuff now. Because of going to Wisconsin and getting to experience all that stuff. But I'm so glad they've opened up to all different aspects of that. Like I said, they got lights in the tunnel. The pregame music, getting guys fired up. They definitely changed the game. You gotta evolve when it comes to the college football thing, because like I said, that's the way you get recruits. That's what they looking for. Playing them hype videos in the weight room and all that stuff. So I'm glad it's really, really elevated.
Hey man, elevated for sure. Cause bro, my 4 years there, it literally was the same songs at the same time. Like if we played at 11 o'clock, right, and we were coming out the tunnel at for warm ups at 10:30. At 10:35, I knew Party in the USA was going to play. At 10, the next song, I knew it was Hey, I Just Met You, and this
this is crazy. Hey, shout out PJ.
It was the same songs, bro. So I remember being a part of that group where it was like they had to start playing Future, March Madness before the game. I'm like, okay, we taking baby steps, like. Bro, we came a long ways from the hype music before the games. Now I heard this, you know what I'm saying? Now I heard it's turned up like the club. So, bro,
Coach was blowing smoke when they started the season and passed out them little note sheets that said, "Oh, what songs you want to hear for pregame?" None of them.
Y'all better. Good thing we fixed it for sure. But to Zach's point, man, for you to still be, I didn't know you was even requesting Chief Keef like that before.
I'm begging for anything, man. I'm telling you, we playing Jason Aldean, all that stuff, Dirt Road Anthem, which I love that song, but I can't listen to that every day at practice and before
not before, game. Especially not before a game, bro.
Like that's kick back, relax type music,
I'll say this: I wasn't really a big like rock guy before I got to Wisconsin, but some of those times on like lifting on a Friday during the the winter, and they play that rock music, that thing it really gets you going. But really being at Iowa my freshman year, like every third down, and then like from there on out, most of the stadiums that we went to on the road, everybody had a little third down, get hype or whatever, and they played a little music, but they start playing a lot of like AC/DC and all that stuff like that, and it actually just puts you in the mood, right?
Yeah.
Like being in the game. Like it's nothing like being out there on third down, like it's a 3rd and 6 and we gotta have it. And they play like the little Undertaker bells and stuff like that. It's like, man, this thing lit,
I was gonna say Michigan State did something like that too. I can't remember what they was playing.
Spartans, what is your profession?
Okay. Had them boys turned up.
100%,
for sure,
man. 100%,
yeah, for sure.
But that's a wrap for this week's podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe. We're going to continue to ask questions from the fans on social media so you guys can chime in, let us know what you want to hear from us, what you like, what you don't like, all that stuff. But big week against Rutgers, going to be a physical matchup. I said it's going to be a long stretch after this bye week, and it got to be physical all throughout it. So hopefully the Badgers get a big dub this week.
Most definitely. On Wisconsin, baby. Yeah.